Hi everyone, Stepan here. Today I'm going to go over the last game I played in Zadar at the Zadar Open 2019. This was played in round 8 after, well, a pretty bad tournament, and in round 8 I finally got paired against somebody higher rated after 2 wins against low rated opponents, and I faced a FIDE master rated 2250. And yeah, I've been preparing for the game for quite a long time, and he plays either the Sicilian or the Alekhine. Usually he plays the Alekhine defense, but of course, since he's a FIDE master and very experienced, he is 50 something or maybe 60. He has definitely a lot of things up his sleeve which he could use, especially against a lower rated player like me. Yeah, before I go into the game, I'd like to say that this evening you can join me for my first ever Twitch stream if you'd like. I'm going to start at 7 p.m. Croatian, that's 1 p.m. EST. So be there, challenge me, ask me questions, whatever you want. Okay, so 7 p.m. Yeah. Okay, so I've prepared against the Alekhine the most, and I've prepared several lines, although I couldn't be sure what he was going to go in. The good thing is that I have a way to sort of force what I want against the Alekhine. After e5, knight d5, I play the move c4. Sorry if my voice is a bit weird, I have a cold, I've had it for about 3 days now, and there's nothing I can do. I need those spraying things but yeah, anyway. So c4, c4 forces knight b6, and now after d4, d6 we have the exchange variation without me having given black any options of, well, moving the knight somewhere else, because the move c4, usually after knight d5 people play d4, and that gives black several different options. d6 is the main move, but knight b6 can play it immediately, c6 can be played, and then it's a weird game after c6. This has been played a lot. Okay, so c4 avoids some of those minor sidelines, knight b6, d4, and after e takes d6, he took with the c-pawn, which I was happy to see because this usually leads to fianchetto variations, which I was well prepared for. So knight c3, g6, bishop e3, this is all theory, all very theoretical. I'm sorry, rook to c1 first. Castles, b3. You want to sort of vacate this diagonal, put enough support on your center, and one of the most important things is you don't develop your knight very early on to make sure bishop g4 is not annoying, and yeah. So after b3, knight to c6 is one of the main moves, and yeah, it allows d5, but it's still the second most popular. The mainline theory in this position is e5, which I think Mr. Bobanac wanted to avoid because I'm a lower rated player. e5 has been played at least 300 or 400 times and takes queen, rook takes queen, bishop to e2 is normal, and you can see that white has a 3-2 pawn majority to play with on the queen side. It is, however, hard to do much with it after, let's say, knight c6. White has vacated, of course, the d4 square, which is very well protected. If there's a way for black to bring his other knight around, for example, like this, and exert some more control over d4, I'm sorry, wrong knight. So yeah, that's actually the correct knight. So for example, something like this, and then place one of the knights into d4, then white is sort of in trouble. And you can see that if white plays the move knight to f3, then bishop to g4 simply trades off the knight, because now the strategic battle is going to revolve around the d4 square. And I had this position on my board before the game, the day before the game, and I was prepared to play around this. I came up with something against these plans. But after b3, he played knight c6, which invites the move d5 and knight e5, of course. And I was also prepared for this. This is way more complicated. It doesn't trade the queens off, of course, but it gives white a solid advantage from the opening. You can see that white has a ton of space because of this d5 pawn, and unless black plays either e6 or b5, he's just going to be worse and is going to have no play. So black has 2 plans in this position, and I was aware of them, which is a good thing. But he's been playing the Alekhine his whole life, which is a bad thing. And he also knows that he has to either go e6 or b5. In this position, bishop to e2 is the main move. And the reason why I play bishop to e2 is you don't want to allow a knight trade on f3, because this knight isn't really doing that much. So yeah, after bishop e2, f5 is the main line, and white is supposed to play f4, and f4 is the only move that gives white an advantage, and I just don't like this. Knight g4, bishop g4, f g4, knight g2, e2 is the main line, and now e6, d takes, bishop takes, castles. I hated this. When I was looking at this variation, of course, black has this isolated d6 pawn, which isn't that easy to defend, to be honest, but my f4 pawn seems weird, h5, h4 seems aggressive, even g5, and the bishop pair for black may seem sort of weak at the moment and not doing much, but I think it's very powerful, so I didn't like this position. So before the game I started coming up with ideas of what to do here, so I came up with knight f3, and during the game when he played knight e5, I was actually considering bishop e2 and knight f3. I ended up playing knight f3, and of course here he should take, that's the only move to offer black something close to equality after queen takes f3. Knight to d7, now there are ideas of again knight e5, chasing my queen away, knight f6, knight c5, queen a5, and I just retreated my queen, and I was sort of happy to have traded off these pieces because I had an idea of what to do in this game. Queen a5 wasn't really such a threatening move because queen d2 is a move I want to play anyway. Maybe trading off this bishop, definitely reinforcing this diagonal, but as I said, queen a5, of course a6 b5 is the long-term plan, as I said, but queen a5 I don't think was necessary. And here he played knight f6. I did not expect that. I've expected knight to c5 and something like bishop e2, bishop f5, which seemed way more active, looking at d3 and trying to cause some problems over here if my bishop is to move, but still I think white is fine after castles. Instead he played knight f6, trying to control the king side, and maybe he saw my idea, so maybe that's why he did it. Maybe he just wanted to control e4, which ended up being important later. I played bishop e2, he played bishop d7, and now I thought for 20 minutes in this position. It's not that the position is hard to play, I can just castle and the position is normal. The problem was I did not want to castle because the whole idea behind knight f3 is to put pressure on the king side, and the other knight came to f6, which is a problem because of course the h7 square is stronger, the king side is stronger in general, but I still almost played the move h4. So my dilemma was h4 or castles. If I go h4, I mean these pieces look very scary and there's a lot going on. So in my analysis I thought e6 was impossible, so something like e6 h5 of course. If e takes d5, I can either go h6 or take on g6. Let's say h6, bishop to h8, knight takes d5. The problem is that in most variations I end up trading queens. And even though this is a comfortable space advantage, and this pawn is sort of in the middle of black's position, I don't think I have enough. I have this weakness, which isn't really a weakness if it cannot be targeted, but perhaps rook e5, perhaps rook c5. I wasn't sure. And of course, after h4, he can just play h5, in which case I don't really have an attack. g4 doesn't work. And as I discussed with my coach, you can just castle in this position and claim that this is a weakness now, which I agree with, but I don't think it's a big enough weakness. So after about 15 to 20 minutes, I just castled. He played a6. And now, of course, he wants to play b5. And here is... Oh, I was so frustrated when I got back to my room after the game. So in this position, pause the video if you want and try to find the only very, very good move for white. Excuse me, I just need to get a tissue and blow my nose. Sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, I hope you had enough time to pause the video. So the best move in this position, which I have to be honest, I didn't consider at all, the thought never crossed my mind, is b4. And b4 uses the fact that the move a6 has been played. And b4 in this position forces the move either queen c7 or queen to d8. Let me just show you what happens if queen takes pawn. If queen takes pawn, the move rook to b1 is extremely strong, and there's nothing he can do about that. If he goes queen to a5, I can just go bishop to b6, and the queen is won. So, yeah, if after queen to after rook to b1, queen to a3, then just rook to b3, queen to a5, bishop to b6 wins the queen. So after the move b4, the pawn cannot be taken, and of course, the position is winning if the pawn is taken, but it's almost winning if it isn't as well. So let's say queen to d8. In this position, I just go c5. And if he tries something like a5, then a3 takes. There is no more counterplay for white. That's the point. He has an isolated pawn on b7. Even if he doesn't trade his a6 pawn for my a2 pawn, his position is worse because he has no counterplay. It's now very hard to go e6. And I still have a lot of space because of my pawn center. I still have much better pieces. It's obvious that my knight is better than his, my bishops are better than his. This would be an overwhelmingly good position. Again, I did not look at the game with an engine. I have no idea what the evaluation is. But I expect it's close to +1, maybe more. Okay, so after the move a6, b4 was the critical move. If after b4 he goes queen c7, then still c5, let's say rook f to c8, rook f to e1, normal position. If he goes a5 again, I go a3, and yeah. Instead of that, I was calculating the move b5, and I was so fixed on that, okay, let me just show you what I thought. So if I do nothing, I thought this was black's threat. He's going to go b5. And if I take, and he takes, I was going to take with the knight, he takes my queen, I take with the bishop, he takes my knight, I take here, and then finally he takes on a2. And this is, I thought, not good for me. I would have to go something like bishop c4, but then I lose my bishop. If I save my bishop, I lose my pawn, and it's just dreadful. Pawn down, horrible position. So I thought that after a6, b5 was a real threat, and let's say again I waste a move. I thought that I would have to go c5, and after c5, I was calculating b4, knight a4, in which case I lose a pawn again. I was calculating b4, knight b1, in which case I'm not sure what he does, but maybe he can just take here and allow bishop takes and try to defend this pawn. Again, I'm not sure, but I think that that this is not good. And finally, I thought that the main problem in my position, and why after b5 I can't play c5, is the fact that I don't control the e4 square. So in many variations, I was afraid of knight e4 if my knight is traded off. So let's say again b5, c5, something like b4, knight b1, knight e4. I was really afraid of something like bishop to c3. Where does my queen go? If my queen moves away, then of course queen takes a2. So in the position after a6, after a long think, I played the move f3. And I thought this was good prophylaxis for b5. And of course, missed opportunities. Had I played b4, he wouldn't have had time for anything. So I played f3, wasted the move. Rook a to c8. Now again, this goes to show that he missed b4 as well. Again, b4, what does he do? Queen to d8. I can even have plans with knight e4, which he basically has to exchange. And now I have this very, very broad center. This resembles the 4 pawns attack in the Alekhine. It's just that it's not the b pawn, it's the f pawn. A very huge center, and not much you can do about it, basically. I mean, just a much better position for white. But as I said, the thought never crossed my mind, so rook f to d1. He played rook f to d8, and now b4 is even stronger, that the queen doesn't have d8. So b4. Queen to c7, I can now go a4, and what does he do here? I mean, I can also go not a4, maybe knight d4 again, and overwhelmingly good position for me. But I never crossed my mind to play b4, so again I wasted a lot of time, and I came up with what I thought was a very good move, and I still think it is a very good move, bishop to f1. Bishop f1 may seem weird, but the idea is queen to f2, and queen to f2, bishop b6 is hard to parry. So what does he do? I mean, if he goes queen to c7 trying to save his queen, then queen to f2 is a direct threat. He would have to go rook e8, then bishop b6, queen b8, and I have to be better here. b5 has been stopped, and I don't see any counterplay for him. Knight e4, for example, takes, get my bishop over here, start an attack, get my rook to f1, and this pawn is really tender. My pawn chain is stopping counterplay, basically. So bishop to f1 I really liked, even though again b4 is the best move. So against b5 I was going to play queen to f2, but then I started thinking about the position, and here is my real blunder. So in this position I knew that queen to f2 is a very direct threat. I just couldn't see a way to make too much progress, so rook to e8 would have to be played in my opinion, and after bishop to b6, queen to b4, there is one idea, but I wasn't sure about it, and that idea is the move a3. After a3, I don't know, maybe queen takes a3. So yeah, okay, maybe bishop d4 first. I thought this was stronger. So either bishop d4 or a3, but let's say bishop d4 and queen a5, trying to get his queen back into play. I would then go queen b6, bishop b6 again, so not letting him get out. And eventually I would have to go a3. And let's say he takes on a3, queen, rook to a1, queen to b4. How do I make progress? I just couldn't see how to make progress. If he of course takes on b3, then he's busted. There's nothing he can do to save the position. He loses the queen. So a3 was one idea, but I wasn't sure about it. And queen to f2 still arguably is the best move, especially since I played bishop to f1. After queen to f2, if he of course goes queen c7 now, then I just win the exchange. But here's what I had seen. I saw this move, bishop a5. It might be hard to visualize now, but if you want, this is sort of an advanced exercise. If you want to solve it, calculate c takes b5 for white and calculate bishop a5. You will see it eventually. You will see when it's supposed to come and decide whether bishop a5 is good or not. Bishop a5 is supposed to be played on move 23, b5 is move 19 for black. So pause the video and calculate that. What do you think about bishop a5? Okay, so after b5, the variation is pretty forced. So it's not hard to reach the position with bishop a5. So that's c takes b5, trading my d5 pawn for white's a pawn. A takes b5. Knight takes b5, attacking the queen. The knight is not hanging, it's defended by the bishop. Queen takes d2, I of course have to take with the bishop, otherwise I lose my c1 rook, so bishop takes d2. And now knight takes d5, and this is move 23, the position which I'd visualized on move 19, on move 20, I'm sorry. And the reason why I didn't go for queen to f2 was the move bishop a5. Now bishop a5 seems to of course attack the knight, attack the exchange, seems fairly complicated and seems hard to defend, but there's a really easy solution in this position. So what I thought is that he was going to attack my bishop. If he attacks my bishop, then I should just be much better. And yeah, okay, so I'm just going to get to the point that I missed. So here's what I missed. I was calculating rook takes c1, of course. That's the most direct way to solve the problems for white. Rook takes c1 and rook to a8, which is fine, which I had visualized in my mind. b4. And here's the move I've missed. And this is on move 25 for black, bishop h6. And I missed this move before playing c takes on move 20, and there's just no good response to this. So if I go rook to c2, which arguably is the best move, I don't know what to do after knight e3. I would probably have to go rook to c7, and then I don't know, maybe bishop to e6. Rook takes. Yeah, maybe not this. Maybe this is actually fine for white now that I look at it. But I'm not sure. So yeah, maybe after rook c7, knight takes, and then the knight is hanging, so knight takes here. Yeah, this doesn't seem right either. I actually have to have a closer look at this, but during the game, rook to c2 I thought was just a horrible move, so I didn't want to play it. Maybe even bishop takes, knight e3 here. No, bishop. I can't remember. I'm sorry, it's been a month and I just don't remember why I hated rook to c2. But anyway, I concluded that I cannot keep my rook on the c file, so I played rook to e1. And now the game is over. Bishop to e3 check, king to h1, bishop to d2, and it's just busted. I have an unpleasant choice between rook to b1 and rook to e4. Rook to b1 is just horrible. I mean, maybe knight e3, maybe trying to win my b pawn. My position is too passive. Maybe rook to c8, coming into c4, and I think he can just take here. So, for example, if I go h3, giving my king some squares, maybe even this takes, rook takes, and just no, maybe not that. Okay, no, it doesn't work here, but rook to b1 is very passive, and I didn't want to do that. I saw the position with rook e4, where he plays rook c8, which he played in the game, and of course he's threatening checkmate and threatening to win a piece, so I have to go rook to c4. The knight cannot be taken because rook c8 check, he has to take here, and now I just lose a pawn. Bishop takes b4, bishop takes b4, knight takes b4, knight to c3, and this position is completely lost for me because I'm a pawn down, and because my a pawn is hard to push and hard to defend, so I'm either going to lose it or it's going to be stuck on a2, while in the meantime these two pawns are going to get rolling, and black is basically going to be able to create two connected passed pawns and win. I played on, of course. I didn't resign, at least not yet. I needed to practice, but you can see how easy it was for Mr. Bobanac to create the two connected passers, and now it's just a matter of technique for him. And of course, it's completely busted, especially now that he's managed to trade off pieces here in this position. I resigned. It's over. So yeah, I missed two things. The first thing I missed is b4, which was hard when I found it at home. The second thing was I think I should have played queen to f2, and I prepared queen to f2 with bishop f1, but then I saw bishop a5, which is a blunder, and I still played c takes b. So yeah, this was a hard game, and actually after the game, in the last round, I got paired against a 16 or 1700 player. I was so disgusted with my play and with myself that I didn't want to play. And then around midnight, I told myself, don't be a coward. I mean, I've never missed a round of a tournament. Sorry. I've never missed a round of a tournament, and I thought I'm not going to miss one now. I'm going to play. And I went to sleep, and it was maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. And the rounds were played at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. The last round was supposed to be played, or even 9, I'm not sure, maybe 10. So anyway, I wake up and I look at my clock, it's past 10 o'clock, and I freak out. And I always set an alarm before I go to bed, but since I've decided not to play the round during the evening, I didn't set an alarm and just went to bed, completely forgot. And yeah, so I overslept. I was really sorry, and I was really upset because it looks like I didn't want to play because I was a coward and whatever. But anyway, so I missed the last round, and Zadar Open was the worst tournament I played up to that point. Just bad. Had I managed to win this game, I would have recovered all the lost points, and it would have been a much different story. Anyway, let me know what you think about the game. Join me this evening at 7 p.m. for my first stream. See you later. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye.